I got a comment from a female jiu-jitsu practitioner and likely a white belt. She writes in, I'm a pretty socially awkward person, so in any environment, I take a while to get to know people. Been going 5-ish months. I feel like I'm sort of one of them now. I'm the only girl, so that doesn't help. Have a couple guys I joke around with that come up and talk to me. Still have trouble finding training partners. Any tips? Yes. First of all, you're doing a great job. You've already shown up 5 months, you kind of feel like you're part of the group, and you have people you talk to. That's honestly a huge step for most people. Let's talk about these tips for finding training partners. There can be a bunch of different reasons why it's difficult to find training partners. Oftentimes, just people who are new in general feel like they have a hard time finding training partners because they don't quite fit into the group. But I think this case specifically has more to do with gender dynamics. When you're in a place where you're the only female, you honestly feel a little bit out of place. Now, I clearly can't identify as a female and say that I've been the only female in a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu class, but I can speak from the other perspective from males in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu class. Oftentimes, seeing someone who is a female in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu class, you might not want to go out of your way to pick them as a training partner. And this could be for a bunch of different reasons. Sometimes it could be kind of a negative reason, like, oh, you really just want to get like a hard roll in and you don't think the female can hang or handle it. But oftentimes, guys don't want to come off as predatory or aggressive or singling out the only female in the gym. It can be a little bit awkward if you're a male and you specifically go up to a female partner and be like, hey, want to roll? I feel like as a guy, sometimes you don't want to be perceived as making advances on a female training partner. And I know this is the training environment where we're all friends and we're all doing jujitsu and there shouldn't be any weird dynamics. But when you're so close with somebody, it can be a little bit awkward to make that first contact and say, hey, would you like to roll? So my tip for you is going to be a little bit more proactive when it comes to finding training partners. If you go out of your way to ask them, would you like to roll? It's much easier on the guy to say yes, absolutely, than it would be to go out of their way to ask you to roll. And this kind of sucks because if you're a socially awkward person, you don't really want to be put in a situation where you have to always be the assertive person going out of their way to ask other people to roll. However, if you do this enough times, you're probably going to get some training partners who are comfortable rolling with you, who you roll with pretty frequently. And I'm in a gym now where there's less female training partners than there are male training partners, but there's still a good number of them. And I feel like they're at the point now where they sort of just are integrated into the group. And especially once you get your blue belt, you sort of have some skills, some experience, and a little bit of respect that comes along with being a more advanced ranked individual. You also can put the beating on some people. If you're a blue belt who's a female, it doesn't really matter what kind of. If you're a blue belt, there are some white belts who you can absolutely ragdoll. Now, I'm not saying you can do this to all white belts. I'm not saying you can do this to people who are bigger than you and stronger than you and all these other things. But there are some people who you are going to be able to put the beating on in jiu-jitsu. And when you get that level of confidence, it's going to be much easier to find training partners because you sort of have the skills to back up your experience. And when people roll with a more advanced female practitioner, they feel a lot less like they are going out of their way to try not to hurt somebody. And this is an unfortunate thing that exists even as like a smaller male. You can get this, but really there is a bit of fear and apprehension, I feel like, from some of the male practitioners to not single out the female white belt who maybe isn't as comfortable in their eyes because they don't have that experience. If you're still a white belt, you are still learning, and it really sucks, to be honest. I wish it wasn't like this. And I really hope the coaches can go out of their way to alleviate this for you. Something you can do is go up to the coach and say, hey, I feel like I'm having trouble finding training partners. And what a good coach would do is they could maybe even partner you up with somebody else. They can say, hey, you and you go find a spot on the mat, you and you go find a spot on the mat. Now, maybe this isn't something that is going to happen at your gym, but making it known to your coaches that you feel like you have a hard time finding training partners, they'll be able to give you some tips and some advice. They know the room, they know the dynamics of the gym, so they're going to be able to tell you, hey, this is a good person to partner up with. And since you already feel like you're integrated in the community, you have made like huge steps and you're already past the biggest hurdle. So I would say keep showing up, keep training, and try to be as assertive as you can. Go out of your way to find people, look them in the eyes and say, I one of my favorite moves to do is give them a thumbs up, thumbs down, like, and sometimes people just give me a thumbs down if they don't want to roll, but usually you get that thumbs up and that means you can start rolling. So if you don't want to like go up and approach people, you can look them in the eyes and give them a one of these, and it's a much less awkward way to try to approach somebody if you want to roll. But after you get people who you are regularly training with, it's going to be much easier because you're just going to have those handful of training partners who are like, no, I know I can train really good with you and we're going to have a great roll. So you'll partner up much more often and much more frequently. So unfortunately, there is this gender dynamic where the males sort of don't want to single out the female in the room. They don't want to come off as predatory or like they're picking an easy role. And I'm not saying you're an easy role, but the fact of the matter is, if you're a female, you're not as big and as strong as some of the males in the room, and it can be a hard thing to overcome until you get that technical prowess behind you to really use your leverage to overcome that strength disparity. And really being assertive, trying to pick those roles, like, give the thumbs up, thumbs down, picking people who you think would be good training partners, and talking to your coach, because really the coach is the person in the room and they're going to be able to help you out more than anybody else because they can partner you up with people, they can set up dynamics in the room that make it easier to get training partners. One of the things I've been experiencing in class is where you'll have a bunch of different people on the mat and one person will be seated and the other person will be standing, and you'll do like a guard passing drill and people just rotate through. So that way you don't have to pick a training partner. You're just getting to roll with people who rotate through the line. And letting it be known to your coaches is going to be the number one thing you can do. Being assertive and asking for roles is going to be the number two thing you can do. And just finding those training partners who you get comfortable with are really going to help you get more roles in. And I hope you keep training. I hope you push past this part because there aren't enough females in jiu-jitsu. We really need more of you girls out there. So I hope this helps. Peace.